Okay, the whole business here started, I don't know when, it was in 1973. And I came home from work and my son, well anyway, I came up the street and all the maple trees had plastic milk bottles on them. And I had no idea what was going on, and there was smoke coming out of the fireplace over there by the woods. And my son Larry, who I guess was in 8th or 9th grade, I don't know, he had decided it was time to tap maple trees and get maple syrup. And he made some taps out of, oh, Bryce, see that copper tap up there? Can you reach that copper thing right next to the axe? Yeah, bring it down. He had fashioned his own taps out of copper tubing, which we have one here, which he had made originally. And he had these bored into the trees, and he was hanging plastic milk bottles on them, and he was boiling this gosh awful looking stuff out in the backyard. And that started it. I think we still have a quart of his original syrup, which looks like, you know, number 30 motor oil. It's in the refrigerator. But then we began to refine bit by bit. About 2 years later, I was up in Dummerston, Vermont, and a guy was selling out his maple syrup business, and he had hundreds of buckets around. Don Hazelton. That's why some of our buckets have an H on them still. He was selling them all for 10 cents a piece, and I filled the back of the car with them, and my wife said, "You're crazy," but she knew that. And we brought that down and brought them down, and the next year we began to tap a little bit more earnest. And we got ourselves a pan boiler for $50 from someplace and set it up on the fireplace out back here. And when it snowed, we built a scaffolding around it with some tin roofing on top. And when the wind blew, we put scaffolds to it. We put aluminum siding on the sides of it and survived that way. And bit by bit, we ended up getting something more fancy. And this was built in 1993.
Yes.
This was built in 1993. We brought in an old Canadian boiler. We used that for about 15 years and replaced it with this new one just now. We tap about 35 taps each year on my property, on the Doyle's property across the street, on Ettinger's down the street. And how many taps have you got at your place this year? You got 11 taps over in Newtown at Larry's house. And we collect every afternoon. But if it's running like this, collect twice a day. It's a pain in the neck. Keeps you busy, keeps you going. But somebody has to do it. Somebody has to do it. And so we do. In the wintertime, about the only way that you can identify the sugar maple and the swamp maple, which produces absolutely nothing, is by the buds or the bark. The bark on a mature maple tree is going to be striated and grooved all the way up to the top. The branches are going to filter out really nicely in nice shapes, and then they're going to pan out in a beautiful pattern. Your swamp maples are pretty scraggly. The bark is very smooth up top in a mature one, and the branches go this way and that way and this way and that way. But the real key is the buds. For your swamp maple, it has 3 buds at twig end. Right there, you should be able to see 3 buds. There, and the sugar maple has a single bud. And there is a, where'd it go? Here we go. And there is a single bud from the maple. Just like that, just a little single kind of pointy, that one broke off. Just a little tiny single pointy kind of bud, as compared to the swamp maple, which has 3 buds there at the end. The swamp maple also is red, and as spring comes along, that red gets bigger and bigger, and it's very spectacular up against the blue sky, and it turns into a marvelous flower, a very spectacular flower, And the maples, they have flowers too, but they're drupes actually when they make their flower. There's your maple, and there's your swamp maple. No sap, lots of sap. This was my father's truck. He bought it when he moved up to Vermont in 1974. And he only had about 6,000 miles on it when I picked it up. He gave me the keys one day. He said, they're making the roads too narrow. He said, get this thing out of here. And we've had it ever since. And it always starts up. My dad always started up too. But on the back we got the sap we collected yesterday. All right.
I know it's not the quickest system, but each year I can't resist it. Get out the buckets and tap the trees in time. Making it is half the fun, satisfaction when it's done. Keep up the fire, maple syrup time. My grandpa says perhaps it's just a waste of time. Ah, but no more than this attempt to make a happy little rhyme. So swing your tail or pat your feet, but keep in good time. Keep up the fire, maple syrup time. Make the maracas now.
Basic principle is that for the essentially the sap contains a lot of sugar, and it acts as a antifreeze for the buds. Because at this time of the year, you're going to get your buds are going to be subjected to warm days, and then suddenly it's going to go down into the 20s or into the teens. And that would ruin the buds. It would just kill them right off. But Mother Nature says, no, no, we'll send up sugar for antifreeze. Antifreeze goes up, carbohydrates come down, or something like that. By the time April rolls around in this part of the country, you get warm nights and warm days, and so the whole antifreeze process is shut down, and that's why the sugar goes. And then Mother Nature sends up, I don't know, proteins and vitamin C and everything else. But that's the end of it. Other trees, they all have sap for this purpose too. Birches do, the swamp maples do. The other trees, like the pines, they are full of all kinds of oils and things that preserve the buds and so forth. There is some chemical that's in oaks, and I don't know what it is, but it's a very bitter something or other that performs the same function. But that's what the sap is. And all we're doing is borrowing a little bit of the sugar that's normally going to be antifreeze. When you tap a tree, it taps it only along that one vein of line. It doesn't tap it all the way around, just that one point there. So you're not affecting the tree, you're not taking all its antifreeze. But basically that's all it is, just antifreeze.
Goes in here, puts it on fire, and that gets warm enough. This first starts boiling, then this will start simmering. Once this is boiled for a few
And that's
hours,
water in both of them?
sap.
Oh, that's sap, okay.
And once this is boiled for a few hours, take it out of there, bring it into the house, cook it on the stove until it's done, and then we put it in our bottle.
Now why, if this starts boiling first, this is right above the fire, why wouldn't this start boiling first?
This area gets more hotter because the more fire is right here.
Okay.
This is the finishing part here. Now this it just started today, so it doesn't even show anything. It won't for a couple hours.
As far as the color and
yeah, it'll
stuff?
start to darken up after a while. But that's the bulk of the sap back there.
Okay.
And then we gradually let it in here, bit by bit.
Oh, all right.
This
So
is
it's
starting to
controlled.
color up a little tiny bit right now. Just beginning
Yeah, I
to...
see a little caramel in there, yeah.
And so we've got to watch this really carefully, because this is where you finish it off. But then we take it inside and finish it off on the burner in there.
To what, control the temperature?
Yeah, to really bring it down to where it's perfect. It's hard to do it precisely, so you usually finish it off on another kind of...
I'll send this song around the world with love to every boy and girl, hoping they don't mind a little advice in rhyme. As in life or revolution, rarely is there a quick solution. Everything worthwhile takes a little time.
We bring the syrup in, we bring the half-finished syrup in from the boiler and put it in this little old coffee pot here. It's got a strainer on top, a high-tech strainer made out of used cheesecloth, and a very, very high-tech strainer here. That removes all the bugs, it removes spiders, it removes bits of bark, and pine needles. Comes in here, and we boil this down, pour it into this container here, and there's just a big old pot, and boil it down and keep an eye on it until it gets to the right point, which we test with a, where is our hydrometer, Bryce?
What's a hydrometer?
That's that funny thing we use.
This?
No, it must be, it's in the shade, we'll find that, it's in the other room. And you bring this stuff right up to a perfect point of consistency where it is syrupy and it pours and it flows. Then it goes into these containers here, and they're hot sealed. As it boils, goes in, everything is sterilized, hot capped, and that's it.
We boil and boil and boil and boil it all night long, till what is left is syrupy. Don't leave it on the flame too long, but seize the minute, build a new world, sing an old song. Keep up the fire, maple syrup time. Keep up the fire, maple syrup time. Keep up the fire, maple syrup time. Split wood, not atoms. Keep up the fire, maple syrup time.